Welcome to the Tinkercats video gallery. Today I'll be working with the box blooms and bold sentiment set from STAMPlorations. Set of 4 box blooms and loads of little sentiments. So we're using the lily, and I'll be showing you how to make a background using my Splodge away mat, and then also how to make some purpose-made matching embellishments to go with the lily using shrink plastic. So for the first one, to make the background, let's start. I'm going to use some yellow ink to first go onto my mat. And the Splodge mat gives a slightly different look as compared to using your craft mat. So, and I find that I can control my splotches and splashes with the Splodge mat a little bit better than with the craft mat. So I'm just going to roller this out and even out my ink a bit using my brayer. And I'm going to spritz this with water. And you probably can see how it is already sort of going into a sort of slight water dropletty type of pearls. I'm just going over this again with the brayer to just make my splotches go and spray again, because it wasn't quite wet enough for my likings. So if we do just spray again a little bit, and now I'm going to get my piece of card and I'm going to place it right in the center, and I'm lifting a print off. So you can use your roller and go over the back of your card, but I just prefer doing it with my hands. So that's the one. And next I'm going to just clean everything up quite quickly, because we're going to use another ink. And I also need to clean my brayer here, get rid of the yellow, because I'm going to also use some pink ink to go in now with this. So let's just wipe this all off. Here we go, that's that. And then next I'm going to use a little bit of pink. I'm going for a bright pink Melon Mambo, and the other colour was Daffodil Delight, and they're both Stampin' Up colours. So I just want to do a little bit. I'm just not doing quite as much ink as I did with the yellow. So I'm rollering it again. And then I'm going to use my spray. And just allow it to react a little bit with the ink that is on the mat. And I'm just going to quickly do about this here. So I only wanted to go on one side mainly anyway of my card, so it doesn't have to go all over. And that's what we're having next. Okay, so I'm going to clean all of this up quite quickly again. So I'm also trying to get the pink off quickly off my roller. And this one is for Sherry. My tools are not quite as clean as you think they might be. I just like wiping them occasionally, or quite soon after I've used them, to sort of avoid too much ink staining. I'm a bit very fussy when it comes to things like that, I must admit. But if I use pink or any reds, they usually do stain things. So now we're done with the Splodge mat. And I'm going to put that to one side. Right, get my blending mat, my craft mat here. And what I would like to do is now just blend the edges in a little bit with some yellow. And I'm just going to simply use a shaving brush here. Just pick up some ink and just go over the edges a little bit, so that then the main aim is to get rid of the white mainly a little bit, and make the yellow to come out a little bit more and the pink to be a bit less dominant. So that's something that you can do quite easily. So here we go. So I'm going to allow this now to dry. Just leave that to one side for a moment. And whilst this is drying, I'm going to stamp on my shrink plastic. Now, normally when I stamp on shrink plastic, I like to use stays on ink. But if you got an image that doesn't take it all up, or if you don't want to cut it out, you can quite easily get away with just using dye inks. Shrink plastic, what I got is a frosted one. So it's got like this frosted side on one side, so a bit rough. That's the side to stamp on, and it's got a clear glossy side on the other side. And if you actually use it without shrinking it, which you can, and you might have seen it in my cupcake card, it gives almost like a vellum effect, but it's much stronger than vellum, and that's quite useful if you want to just have something else to go on top of it, because vellum is very soft and it just can be a bit floppy at times. Right, so this is my lily stamp here, and I got the shrink plastic. So I'm just going to use some Memento ink to do this, and the ink pad I got is not the newest one, so it's actually not a very black imprint, which is exactly what I don't want, but I want. I don't want a very black ink imprint, because as when you shrink the plastic, the color intensifies more. So I'm just going to stamp on the rough side about centrally. Do it for one. That's that. Now I can stay here for a moment whilst I do the other one. And then I got this here. Let's do number 2. And then we're going to get the heat tool out. And shrink these. Now, yeah, as I said earlier, with shrink plastic, you can also colour it in, but you must be aware of that the colour will intensify when the plastic shrinks. If you want to colour in, you could use your pro markers, or you could just use normal colouring pencils. If you wanted to do that, it's probably best to, unless you use pro markers for colouring pencils, it's probably best to stamp it with stays on ink, because it's a non-porous surface, and if you use dye-based ink, you've just got to be a bit careful really as to what you do with it. So I'm just leaving one to one side, and let's start with one. They always have like either some scissors or a pair of tweezers to hand, to try and hold the shrink plastic in place a little bit. Now I've got my craft mat under here, which is heat proof, and it also will protect my work surface. So it's going to get a little bit noisy as I'm going to put my heat tool on. So I'm holding it above and I'm just moving around a little bit. So you should be able to see it quite nicely when it starts curling up and shrinking. So I'm hoping that this is going to work. Now keep going. If it goes like this, just keep going. It will unfold itself again. And I'm hoping that these are not my famous last words, because quite often when I tend to use shrink plastic in class, I always mess it up. Without fail, it always goes somewhere else. Okay, so this is one. I'm just going to quickly get a block here on top to flatten it out. That's that. Put it to one side, and now we're going to do the next one. Just hold it above. And just keep going, because it will fold itself out again. You can do this by putting it into the oven as well, but I just tend to always use the heat tool really. Now this is where I might just want to come in with my tweezers and turn it around. So can you see how it's getting quite nice and small, and you're making your own little tiles as an embellishment. So here we go. That's that. So we got two little tiles here for the embellishment. Just saying, yeah, I can put that down. It's not too hot. Right, let's get back to our piece of card, which has a little bit curled up. It's too bad. All you have to do is you just slightly roll it out again a bit. So, and I've already got my larger lily, which I've coloured in. So I'm just trying to move it around on my base. I think I sort of like that. And then we got one lily to go here, and another one to sort of go here. Right. So I want now, what I want to do is I want to stamp my sentiment down the middle. And the ones of you who might have followed our sketch challenge, the sketch 16, that's pretty much exactly what I'm working with here at the moment. And because I didn't do a tutorial when I made the cupcake, so I thought I'll bring it in for the spotlight with the box blooms. So I'm going to stamp my sentiment in yellow. I'm just starting at the bottom. And this is more like a background thing. It's not meant to be very very visible. Neither is it meant to be very precise. So just do this. And for those of you who want to Google the meaning of lilies, whilst in some countries they're mainly associated with funerals, they're also in mythology very much associated with purity, and hence make quite good flowers for weddings. So this is what I got in mind for this one here, that it might be making, despite my black frame, quite a nice, potentially funky wedding card or anniversary card. I actually must say I did have some white lilies in my bouquet. Actually, when I got married, I insisted in white lilies for some reason. I hadn't known at the time that they had that sort of symbolism. So there you go. I just like them because it was the period of the dress that I wore and stuff, so I just felt they were all going quite well together. So this is going to be this here, and then you will be able to see the colour from the background just slightly coming through these tiles here. So I'm just thinking, do I need to do some splatters or something? Let me just get my piece of pink card out. Now this is how I make cards. Sometimes I start off with an idea and then everything just evolves, and if you're doing this sort of splattering printing type of technique, you have to work with what you're getting, so it's not necessarily what would have been your first impression. No, I think I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to put anything on, and I'll just put some gems or something like that in. Right, so in order to do this, I'm just going to quickly assemble my card. And I hope this is not going to be too long a video for you, because I know some people don't like watching videos that are very long. But actually, essentially, I got two bits in here for you, which was the lifting print off your splotch mat, which is more like a blending mat. It's got a slightly different surface to as compared to your craft mat, and hence the water and your ink and whatever do react with it slightly differently, and you're getting a different effect. And it also the effect you're getting also depends hugely on the amount of ink you're putting on. When I made my cupcake card, first time around I put an awful lot of ink on, and it was just it got a bit too dark. I actually got the imprint here for you to show, so that was just too much. I'll be using it for something else, but it wasn't suitable for what I wanted. And so try again with less ink and maybe change the colors, whatever, and just have a play, really. So this is going to go onto my piece of pink card. Which I got here. And the other thing, get yourself some options ready, because this might not have looked as, it would have probably looked quite somber had I used a piece of black card behind my background here. So you sometimes have just to try and play around a bit with colours in order to get the effect that you would like. And I've made this with yellow and green, and it wasn't quite what I had in mind for the lily. It's something I will be using for another card probably. I'll just show you that one. So that was my yellow and green, and I did that on my craft mat. So you get a completely different splotching pattern, I think. So let's do this, and then let's stick this on my white base card. Right, now the little lilies that I stamped on the shrink plastic, I purposefully stamped them in black because I didn't want them to compete with my coloured in lily, and I did colour the lily using pro markers. As had I used the inks that I used for the background, it would have competed very much with the lily I got coloured. So there's someone, probably, we have bin day today, you might hear in the background some water going. Something is happening. Someone's probably having the bins cleaned. It's either that or my husband watering the flowers in the front garden. So here we go. Now let's pop this on. So, and as you can see, despite the bright pink frame, the white base card actually almost like lightens the intensity of the colours on my topper. So which is quite a good effect, because it will be really nice to have the lily come up against it. So if I do it about here, I'm going to get some 3D foamy bits. To pop that on. They're quite sticky. So let me just try that out again. So I want them here, and then these go sort of here. And here. And then just a couple of pearls or gems around. I think that should be okay. So if I leave these in place, then I know where to put my larger topper. So let's do that. And let's just, that's it. So go for it. Now the shrink plastic, all you need is like a little bit of double-sided tape to stick it on. So I'm just going to get just a little bit off, and I'm going to use a thin one because I wanted to mainly go behind the where it's darkest in my pattern. So I just got this very thin red tape here, and I'm going to put my shrink plastic, sticking that on with the frosted face down. So I'll be having the shiny face up, which will further help to protect your stamped image. Because what can sometimes happen, given that I've used dye ink, the ink can rub off. So you need to look that if you use dye ink, that you try and protect it, and then you should be fine. So that is one. Let me just see, I'm going to use the tweezers. I get a better idea of where I'm going when I've got tweezers. So if I do this, yep, that's that. Now you might have noticed that the little squares are not very even, and because I've done it on the craft mat, I also got like a little bit of texture. So that's just that these are quite nice sort of additional features of shrink plastic. If you have it on a very smooth surface, you will be getting a very smooth surface on top, and your images, they always shrink slightly differently, and it's quite nice to have these sort of, I think, uneven shapes at times, because it just adds character to your project. So now this red tape never comes off very easily. So I'm going to pop this one just out a little bit here. That's that. Right, now for you, the ones of you who had a look at the Sketch 16 challenge, you may have noticed that I did edge the, I said that I edged my shrink plastic with some just normal metallic markers. It just I got them in a pound shop actually, just to give it an edge, which was quite okay for that card, but for this card, because I haven't coloured the lily, I just left it as is. So this all just needs a couple of gems to go on, and then the card is finished. So thank you for watching, and I shall be back soon again. Thanks, bye.